I've stood at the edge of my courage gap many times since I was a grubby-faced kid in the Aussie bush. And many times I've balked. Yet I've also managed a few brave moments when I've fumbled nervously forward. Like the day I hugged my 5 younger siblings and parents goodbye, leaving life on my parents' dairy farm for university in the city, the first in my family to do so. I was an insecure 18-year-old whose vision for my life extended little beyond our back paddock, but I was determined to expand it. That uneasy step emboldened future ones, from backpacking around the world after graduating to having 4 kids in close succession across multiple global moves. Not all the experiences that have called for courage have been by choice. Like everyone, I've had my share of heartache and hardship that shattered my mental maps of how life is supposed to be and left me awash in fear. Yet the situations that have tested me the most, particularly those I'd naively assumed would never happen to me, have ultimately led to my greatest growth. The experiences in the last 5 years, testing and teaching me in new ways, have led me to write this book. They began in the first days of 2020 as charred leaves rained down while I was hastily helping my parents pack their precious few belongings to evacuate wild bushfires in Australia. I recall thinking how hard it would be to top this as the big news story for 2020. By March 2020, my husband Andrew was hospitalised as one of Singapore's first COVID patients, and I was quarantined in our apartment there with our son Ben, as our 3 other children, 10,000 miles away studying in the US, were suddenly homeless. I've grieved my mother's long goodbye to dementia, made all the more wrenching by international travel restrictions that prevented my returning to Australia to see her for 2 long years. I also moved from Asia back to the US after a decade away and found it more difficult than I'd anticipated to re-establish life and community. The fact that I landed in the midst of a pandemic, pre-vaccines, didn't help. In parallel with that was adjusting to free bird status, my term for empty nester, as our 4 children spread their broad wings. Taking on a senior partner role in the board and executive advisory practice of a preeminent leadership consulting firm was another wholly new and broadening experience.